Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Meets Finance, where we bridge the gap between the market and real estate market and money. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting with a good friend of mine, Mr. Andrew Wells, who is one of the top real estate agents in Ontario and more than likely, possibly even Canada. So I know I've known you for a long time.
Yeah,
and
20 years and still going. Yeah.
20 years and still going. So that's awesome. We're just going to talk a little bit about the market and sort of the effects it has between financing, market trends, and obviously the consumer. So, young man, first tell us a little bit about how you started, what you're doing, and I know you're a big soccer buff. So, let us know, let the viewers know, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So we're I guess by way of introduction, again, my name is Andrew Wells. I'm the broker of record and co-owner of Royal LePage Terre Equity SW Realty. We are one of Anthony's partners. We work hand in hand with our financing contacts to make sure that our clients are well taken care of. And most importantly, to make sure that financing is going to be a smooth part of the entire equation of getting their real estate transactions and trades done. I will share that when you bring on an agent, think of us as a conductor of an orchestra of services, and our financing partners are one of the most critical elements of getting that done. It makes sure that your entire transaction is going to flow smoothly. And whether you're on the selling side or the buying side, there's an equal amount of importance for our contacts in the finance industry that we rely on guys like Sherwood and Anthony to take care of our clients.
Okay, awesome. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in some questions for you, and hopefully our viewers are going to get a little bit, a few nuggets out of it that they can use. So, first question I have for you, and when you're speaking to a consumer or homeowners, how do you decide, or how do they decide whether or not they stay in their current home, whether they should sell? Whether they should purchase, what do you say to that when they ask you that question?
It's a great question. It really comes down to, are you right-sized? Is your home meeting the utility for what you and your family need? We go through different stages of life, and I find often with our clients, we get involved when there's some kind of change happening. Maybe you've had a new arrival, there's suddenly your family is growing. Maybe the kids have left and you're like, I've got 4 bedrooms, it's just me, I don't need so much inventory here. So those are all some of the reasons that kind of weigh in on people's decisions when they want to buy or sell. We get pulled in, and then right behind asking us what the valuations on properties are going to be, they're going to find out, hey, what are the financing and funding options that go together with that?
Okay, awesome. And which sort of leads me to my next question, and a great segue is, what do homeowners consider when making a move in today's market? Like, what are some of the factors? What would they consider that would say, oh, listen, yeah, this is the right time to make the move?
I think a big question is just, is the inventory there? Are the market conditions, are they going to allow you to get to the property that you want? Questions of affordability, of course, are always very important. Making sure, again, from a financing perspective, what's the cost of capital going to be? One of the earliest questions that we get involved with that we hand over to our mortgage contacts, if you're looking at a product, is it portable? Is it assumable? What do those things mean? What's the length of the term? Should you be going with a variable versus a fixed rate? And just making sure that you've got the right products in place to go along with your trade to make sure you're going to have a smooth process. Also, increasingly, we now have clients where they're helping their kids, where they're getting into the market. Sometimes they're taking a position with their kids to help them get started.
The bank of mom and dad.
Sometimes, yeah. Also for new Canadians, there's special programs for them specifically. We deal with a lot of corporate relocations. So getting them in touch with our lending contacts, it's really a critical part. The majority of our clients who move here from abroad, they like to buy a home within 3 years. So new Canadians are a big part of the housing market. And again, we trust our lending partners to make sure that they have access to the capital they need to get the homes they want.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Fantastic. There's been, and I'm sure, and I'm one of them, because so many factors come into play. Have you ever come across a consumer that's maybe been unsure of selling? And how would you have guided them? And given I know markets obviously play a big factor into their decision. But if there's something that you could tell a consumer or give them some advice as to that uncertainty
Yeah.
that may be sort of lingering for them, what would that be?
So it's important to always be aware of what the current market conditions are. And the conditions can change quickly. So we're constantly in touch with our clients, letting them know what's active inventory that's around them and what's a realistic timeline. If you're looking to bring your product to market to sell, currently in the GTA, some market segments, specifically in the low-rise freehold segment, are still moving pretty briskly. We're actually still seeing competition with some of that inventory. We have other clients right now in condominiums. That market at the moment is slower because we have a surplus of inventory. So for our clients who are looking to sell their condos and then buy into a home, we're advising them right now, make sure your sale's in place.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get caught in a position where you have to sell your backup property, the market slows down, and you can't. You also need to understand that if you're looking to do what's called a bridge mortgage, you're bridging based on the sale of your property. So if you haven't sold your backup, we can't get you a bridge. So these are the kind of conversations we have to have up front to make sure our clients are making guided and informed decisions, and talk to your lending specialist to make sure that you're well aware of everything that's going to impact your transaction, your trade. Make sure
We're your lending specialist.
Call Anthony.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I guess one of the concerns that a lot of the consumers have is how do interest rates affect their position when to buy? When customers come to you, I think it's always great and it's always prudent for a real estate agent to send them to their mortgage broker, their mortgage specialist, whoever that might be, to get a pre-approval. For sure. But interest rates obviously have an impact on that decision. Seeing that the interest rates have sort of been volatile over the last year and a half, and now we're seeing the trend go down with some of the consumers some of the buyers that you're dealing with. Does that play a big factor for them? I know it's sort of a rhetorical question, but really there are some borrowers that will say, this is a time to buy for me. Even if the interest rate is a little bit higher, I'm hoping that, real estate within the next 2-3 years, I jump in now and then, we see the, real estate take off and might offset some of those higher interest rates that they're paying now. But will probably gain in the real estate market as it appreciates. So what would be sort of your advice?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at this moment, we're in a slower market. That means that there's generally more opportunity. There's a better selection of product out there. Having access to good lending lines that are going to make sense and be appropriate for both your risk profile and for what you can afford. Those are critical elements. We constantly are talking with Anthony about what's a suitable product for our clients. If they want a lower tolerance to risk, they may decide to go with a fixed product. Or they may say, I think that I want to work with a variable product, have more flexibility. I think that based on where the markets are going, that if it looks like rates are going to go down, maybe that's a better option. It's always done on a case-by-case basis, though. Yeah. So that's why it's really important to speak with Anthony, understand what are the different types of products, and make sure that it's going to be a suitable and appropriate solution for you.
Yeah.
And having a plan. I mean, one of the real benefits of working with a mortgage broker is that they're working on your behalf, and they're going to be there in 3 years, 5 years. Whether you're looking to either refinance or there's some kind of situational change, or you're like, hey, I see an opportunity. Your mortgage broker is working for you and representing you. Whereas when you go straight to the bank, they're just trying to work on behalf of the bank. So yeah. I always tell my clients, talk to Anthony, get the guys at Sherwood working on it, and make sure you have a full understanding, because he's going to work on all of the lenders and make sure that they're going to compete and give you the best options.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for that. I guess another question I would have for yourself, seeing that you're the real estate professional, is a lot of the consumers feel that they know when to sell, when not to sell, or what have you. Obviously, market conditions play a big factor, and coming to you and giving them obviously a scope of what's been selling in the area, market conditions and whatnot, is the right and smart thing to do. Can you identify maybe some of the mistakes that the consumer makes before listing their property? Do you see any mistakes, or maybe you could provide a little bit of an advice as to what they should be looking for prior to them listing their home, or some of the things they should be doing prior to?
Absolutely. One of the main things we tell our clients, make sure that you polish your home up, make sure it looks its best. If you leave things that are not fixed or they're broken, We call that the aggravation tax. And right now, more than ever, if a consumer's out there and they're shopping, if your product looks tip-top shape, they will give you tip-top dollar.
Right.
There's three prices in real estate. There's retail, which is full price. There's wholesale, which means you're on a bit of a discount. And then there's fire sale. And that means that you're basically looking for the first person who will get you out of that position. We don't want you to fire sale. We want to sell for full retail. Yeah. To do that, get your stagers in, get the product ready. Sometimes we need to make an investment into the property to extract more value out of that. We had a terrific situation last season. We had a client of ours, they had a really nice home out by Angus Glen. After going through it, they made a good investment. We put in about $40,000 worth of work, and that property sold for $400,000 more than the next sale behind it.
Wow.
So it does pay dividends, but you need to know what you're doing. You need to get good advice. And the timing is important. If you've got a home with a pool, you want to be bringing it out when that feature of the asset is going to be best represented. Don't try to sell a home with a pool in the middle of winter when people can't really appreciate the value that's there. You want to make sure you're hitting the market between May and July with lots of blue sky and lots of greenery, so people can really feel the value of it. The condominium market's usually less seasonally affected. Right. Right now, it's really more of a commodity game. If there's a surplus of product and a shortage of buyers, the only difference is price. Right. So you either need to have something that makes your features stand out, whether it's you're putting in some upgrades and some additional features to it, or you need to be better priced to make sure that you got a better opportunity on the table for a buyer to work on your property as opposed to somebody else's.
Okay. So Andrew, since you're obviously the specialist in real estate, maybe you could share what your take is on. And I know a lot of the consumers say, well, I don't need staging. I don't need to fix up. And I know you sort of jumped in and explained a little bit about what they should be doing, and does great advice. But there's a lot of questions that come around whether or not, a lot of times the seller is going to ask, why do I need to stage my home? Do you feel that there's a benefit to staging a property?
Absolutely. Now, you're being shopped against the entire market. And when you're living in your home, that's for you. When you're selling your home, you're preparing a product for the next person to paint a picture of themselves into that space. Okay. So you need to neutralize it. You want to take yourself out. Professional staging, we look at it from the context of how's a purchaser going to come through. Usually it's going to be a purchaser, possibly with their spouse and their realtor. We look at things like the furniture map. We want to make sure, even things like, are the windows clean? Do we need to update the paint? Are the colors there? Is there any damage that needs to be either repaired or remedied? Sometimes we can find cost-effective solutions. Like if you don't have good lighting in a room, you can do spotlights now for a very reasonable amount. And we've got lots of trades that we can extend for you to help get that done. Right. But most importantly, you want to make sure that your product is going to really resonate with that next person. Right. Because good product always sells. Always sells. That's the last word of it. And then if you have the right presentation, it's like going into a showroom to buy a car. You're going to look for a car that's fully polished up and ready to go to hit the road, as opposed to one that's all banged up. We want to make sure that your place is going to be ready to sell, is fully polished, and that's how you're going to get the best return for your investment.
Okay. And another question, and you can answer as well. There's a lot of times the question arises whether or not when you're going to market and listing a property, should you, if the area calls for homes selling for $1 million, or maybe you've got some listings that you see that are about 1.1, 1.2, that's what the area calls for. Is it always prudent to go on the market below that, just in hope that you're going to get some multiple offers, and all of a sudden yours is going to be selling for 1.4, 1.5? Can you sort of either demystify that, or is that the right thing to do?
It totally depends on the market dynamics, and that could change within a couple of weeks' time. We need to look at the surrounding inventory. Are properties moving? Right. Are they selling at realistic prices? We look to the data for proven market data. People can test property prices. That doesn't mean they're going to sell there. Right. So right now I'm actively working with a client. We're looking at some properties at Mississauga. We see a lot of product priced at 1.4, nothing sold for more than 1.2. That actually has an impact both on the buyer in terms of being able to get his financing done because the property needs to appraise, but it also impacts those sellers because they could sign a deal for an amount that's above the appraised value. The buyer's not going to get the financing for it, and people don't understand that piece of the puzzle. That's part of our job, is to educate them about it. So again, we want to make sure that regardless of whether you're buying or selling, you've got the market data in hand with the current market data, so you know what to do in terms of your next move, making sure it's your best move.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I guess one last question before we wrap this up. And when purchasers are going out and buy properties, there's a lot of, especially in older homes, we see this where you require an inspection, right? And there's questions always being asked: is the appraisal and the inspection the same? They're not really, because an appraisal is going to give you sort of the value of what's been selling in the area, but the inspection is going to really touch on the inside. What's is it structurally sound? Do we need to do a lot of a lot of cosmetic work around the house? So touch on that, the importance of maybe either doing an appraisal or an inspection, whether it's prior to maybe putting an offer on a home that you're going to like, or is it important to have an inspection done?
Absolutely. Do not buy a home without a home inspection. You're buying into a significant asset. You want to understand what's the physical state of the property. Are there elements of it that are going to require immediate maintenance? What's your long-term maintenance plan going to look like? Is it structurally sound? Were renovations done that could either damage the asset or require you to fix them in the near term? The appraisal has more to do with the market value, whereas the home inspection it gives you a firm understanding of what the state of the property is.
Right.
For our sellers, we always recommend do a home inspection before coming to market. We call this a pre-listing inspection. The biggest benefit of it is that when you're negotiating price with your buyers, they can't turn around later and say, hey, I've got a deficiency list because I didn't know that there were these problems with the home. Right. You're basically just saying, this is the state of the property, this is what I'm selling it for. Even if the buyer wants to do their own inspection afterwards, you've already covered that base, so I highly recommend doing that. It gives you more information about the asset itself, which the buyer is going to need for things like insurance and so forth. And then again, on the buying side, we've done home inspections on brand new properties and found major defects in them. And that's given us pause and said, hey, we're going to back out of this because this property isn't going to be a good deal.
Right.
So just from a consumer protection piece, absolutely
that's
get
the
a
right
home
thing to do.
inspection.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, Andrew, I appreciate it. It's been great, and certainly a lot of great information for us and the viewers to take these little nuggets that you provided and use them when to their benefit. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and where they can reach you. And I know you got some great listings coming up.
Yep.
But maybe if you can share your contact number and where they can see those listings, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Our number at the office is 416-495-2746. We operate 7 days a week, including evenings and weekends. You can always reach us there. Our website is at sheriffwells.com, which we'll put on the bottom here. Both myself and my business partner, Lisa Sheriff, we've been working together since 2005. We also have other agents who work in our brokerage, but generally we work directly with our clients. We're always here to give you advice. So, if you're just curious about what a property's worth, or if you'd like more information about the general market, we will share that. And of course, we rely on Anthony and our financing partners to make sure that you've got your financing situation in its best possible setup to make sure you're not going to have any problems down the road.
Awesome. And Lisa Sheriff couldn't be here today, and it's too bad. And Lisa and I go back 30 years when I was a lender working for one of the larger banks. And certainly it's been wonderful over the last 30 years to keep a relationship like we have. And obviously with yourself and Sherwood and myself, we've known each other for quite a while, even though you like English soccer and that doesn't really count for much. We like the Italian soccer, Serie A.
One of these days in the World Cup, we're going to do great.
You're gonna do great. That's okay. We've got four. We've got four under our belt. But listen, young man, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time and
thank you, everyone.
sharing your input about the markets with our viewers. We certainly look forward to another episode. But for today, thank you all for another episode of Real Estate Meets Finance. We look forward to sharing more insights about the market with our other partners. Thank you.
Thanks again. Pleasure.